The United Nations Office of Counterterrorism was established on? Good job. Your answer 15 June 2017 works well here. Which of the following is an example of a proactive response to terrorism? Valid point. Implementing security measures is true. Afghan government that supported terrorism is the best definition for dash. Great job. Taliban is the accurate answer. Which federal agency is responsible for investigating domestic terrorism? Nice work. You chose FB and it is correct. Which did not result from the American involvement in the war on terror? Oh. Good thinking. All terrorism ended is the right answer. What is the relationship between religious fundamentalism and terrorism? Smart pick. Religious fundamentalism is a form of terrorism is the correct choice. When the IRA began to reject terrorism, what did some of its members do? Right again. They formed a new organization is a valid answer. The 1995 Oklahoma City bombing was an example of this type of terrorism. Excellent choice. Domestic is the right answer. The terrorist group Daesh is considered a type of nationalist terrorism. You got it? Your choice and is right. What law did LA 1779 Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 effectively replace? Strong choice. Human Security Act of 2007 is the right answer. In which region is terrorism the greatest threat to peace and security? Well reasoned. The Middle East is the correct choice. Definition. Look for weapons and money used by terrorist organizations. Excellent. Investigate resources of terrorism is a brilliant choice. Which document is often considered the manifesto of modern terrorism? Solid response. Moctezuma Millennium is a valid choice. What was the most sensational act that left-wing terrorism committed? Ought. Bravo. Assassination of Aldo Moro is the answer. Due to high-risk community, give impact of terrorism to which economy? Nicely done. Insurance, trade and tourism is a solid answer. Which of the following characteristics does not represent terrorism? Perfect. It comes from Arab countries is the correct choice. What do you think about a possible resurgence of terrorism in Peru? Clear logic. Your choice, let's hope God doesn't allow such a thing, is sound and 100% true. Definition. Innocent people arrested or people released from arrest. Correct. Failure to tackle terrorism is the right answer. What are the major factors contributing to the rise of terrorism? Great thinking. Socio-economic inequality and political instability is the right choice. Among the following are the indirect effects of cyber-terrorism. Smart move. Strained domestic and international relations with partners is an accurate answer. An example of security challenges arising from globalization is? Correct response. Terrorism is the most accurate answer. What weapon are many counterterrorism experts concerned about? Sharp thinking. Dirty bombs is the right choice. Which do you think is worst, cyber-terrorism or cyber warfare? Right choice. They are equally bad is the best answer. Spreading false information and spreading viruses are dash. Exactly. Type of cyberterrorism makes sense, and it is right choice. The religious and cultural clash that motivates terrorism is... You're right. Specious is the correct answer. Which one not include as risks of terrorism toward children? Well done. Due to high-risk community is the right choice. What did the era of terrorism in the 90s leave you in Peru? On track. Pain and suffering is the correct answer. Transnational terrorism can result in the following, except... Well picked. Academic impacts is the correct answer. Which of the following was not act of terrorism since 9/11? Nice selection. USS Cole ship bombing is the correct and valid answer. Which of the following alternatives is a form of terrorism? You chose hostage-taking, and it is correct. Which of the following is not a counter-terrorism strategy? Perfect. Promoting religious tolerance and understanding is the correct choice. What is the use of fear and intimidation for political gain? Nice work. You chose terrorism, and it is correct. The overall risk of the Philippines to terrorism and TIF is... Bravo. High is the answer. Which of the following is not a common cause of terrorism? Religious tolerance is the correct answer. What is the main cause of terrorism, according to experts?
Excellent choice. Social, economic, and political inequalities is the right answer.
When was a global counterterrorism strategy adopted? Sharp thinking. 2006 is the right choice. What is the major issue regarding terrorism till date? Exactly. Issue of proper definition makes sense, and it is right choice. Definitions of terrorism usually emphasize that it is smart pick, usually directed at civilians, is the correct choice. An alliance with other nations' allies is called what?
Strong choice. Coalition is the right answer.
How does it feel when you hear the term terrorism? Thinking. Terror is the right answer. Has the US policy spread or contained terrorism? Correct. Both is the right answer. Which type of terrorism is politically motivated? Well reasoned. Political terrorism is the correct choice. Disruption in daily routines, residence or school. Clear logic. Your choice risks of terrorism toward children is sound and 100% true. What role does the cyberspace play in terrorism? Well picked. It is used as a platform for terrorist actions is the correct answer. Which of the following is false about terrorism? Excellent. Terrorism only affects certain countries is a brilliant choice. What are the main types of terrorism in Europe? You chose ethno-nationalist, separatist, anarchist, and religious, and it is correct. The third wave of terrorism was linked to Daesh. Solid response. The rise of the new left is a valid choice. Which country suffers the most from terrorism? Well done. USA is the right choice. When did the second wave of terrorism emerge? Valid point. During the First World War is true,
which was not a result of the war on terror. Right choice. All terrorism ended is the best answer.
Definition: a result or effect of an action. Smart move. Consequences is an accurate answer. What was the most famous terrorist attack? On track. The thing about the Twin Towers is the correct answer. What are some of the causes of terrorism? Great job. Political, social, economic, and ideological factors is the accurate answer. The common component in terrorism is dash. Right again. Creating fear is a valid answer. How can education help prevent terrorism? Good job. Your answer by increasing our awareness, critical thinking, and social understanding works well here. Definition: capture of weapons and people. You got it. Your choice non-military methods is right. What are the types of cyber terrorism? Great thinking. All of the above is the right choice. What are the two types of terrorism? Nicely done. Domestic and foreign is a solid answer. Who are the ones who cause terrorism? Correct response. Islamic organizations is the most accurate answer. What is the main goal of terrorism? Nice selection. To drive fear into the masses is the correct and valid answer. What other terrorist threats exist? Smart pick. All the above is the correct choice. Country with the greatest terrorism. Strong choice. Iraq is the right answer. What are values all Americans have? You chose freedom, equality, and education, and it is correct. How does terrorism impact society? Good thinking. Terrorism impacts society in various ways is the right answer. It is not a factor of terrorism. Valid point. Prosperous territories is true. International basis of terrorism. You're right. Inter-American Convention Against Terrorism is the correct answer. What is called state terrorism? Sharp thinking. To the systematic and government-sanctioned violation of civil rights is the right choice. Nuclear terrorism depends upon. Correct response. All of the above is the most accurate answer. What factor affects terrorism? Right again. Economic imbalance is a valid answer. How can you define terrorism? On track. Violence to achieve political or ideological goals is the correct answer. Who can engage in terrorism? Well picked. Both is the correct answer. How many types of terrorism? Right choice. 2 is the best answer. The term terrorism appears. Nice work. You chose after the Second World War, and it is correct. Where can terrorism happen? Good job. Your answer anywhere works well here. State terrorism refers to. Correct. Governments that rule through the use of fear is the right answer. What does jihad mean? Well done. The spiritual struggle with oneself against sin is the right choice. What is terrorism? Excellent. Create terror among the public is a brilliant choice. TIP stands for
Bravo. Counterterrorism Implementation Task Force is the answer.
CTID stands for Clear Logic. Your choice Counterterrorism Executive Directorate is sound and 100% true. In Italy dash. Well reasoned. There was political terrorism is the correct choice.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Smart move. Contact Narayan Changda is an accurate answer.